We lift our hearts to those across the oceans, and we lift our hearts to those who have come across the oceans to be with us here today. And so I welcome our Polynesian sisters and brothers who have literally sailed halfway across the world to connect, or rather to reconnect with us in our gorgeous mother city. Welcome home. Because we know that even though you regard your roots as being truly Polynesian, Asian maybe, but if you go far enough back in your family tree, you'll discover African blood. Because we know that you have come from the newest civilization to the cradle of humanity. From here, our human family originated. And then our great grand aunts and uncles strode out across the world. Some learned to sail and to navigate until they occupied just about every inhabitable space on Earth. It is said that your branch of the human family occupies one of the final frontiers. Now, 1700 years later, you have built a vessel similar to those that carried your earliest ancestors to the islands, and you have journeyed home. You are discovering, and you are sharing, you are teaching, and you are learning, and you are connecting, or rather reconnecting, as the prodigal son did in the parable. But unlike that brother, you're not returning home penniless and fearing the worst after squandering your inheritance, but rather you're gathered precious gifts of love, of knowledge, of rich culture, and you have brought them back here to share. And for this, we thank you. You are reconnecting, and you are the most precious gift that you can bring, you yourselves. Long before people started calling Cape Town the mother city, it was known as the Tavern of the Seas. If Table Mountain could speak, it would bear witness to a great variety of craft that have passed and visited here. Who knows? Perhaps the sight of the Hokulea sailing into Table Bay might have triggered a memory. Of course, South Africans raised on a staple diet of apartheid education were indoctrinated to believe that ocean travel was invented by the clever Europeans, and the ships which disgorged the first colonizers were just here 350 years ago, were among the earliest examples of proper ocean-going vessels on Earth. The ships were loaded with discoverers, the fable continued, who quite naturally proceeded to discover all manner of wonderful things and places. The fact that people had already lived in these places for millennia didn't seem to count. They were regarded as subhuman. Well, 21 years ago, Nelson Mandela was sworn in as our president, following South Africa's first democratic election, and a great transformation process began. While politicians tend to tell you how many houses have been built for the poor or haven't been built, one of the more significant areas of growth has taken place in our respect for our consciousness about who we are and about how we relate to each other. not only to each other within our country, but also how we relate to the world. Today, for example, we acknowledge the compelling evidence of Phoenician trade in the north of our country, many hundreds of years before the colonial era, and that the Portuguese were therefore probably not the first sailors to navigate our waters. And we acknowledge the evidence of early Asian mastery of the seas. The problem with recorded history is its starting point. There is no recording of what happened before, or if there is a recording, only the scientists can read it. Many mysteries remain, and as we learn more, it's only to realize how much more there is to know. The voyage of the Hokulea reconnects us to each other on a primal level. It harks back to our oneness, to the starting point of our interconnectedness and our human journey, filling gaps in our knowledge as she goes. We are hugely grateful and indebted to the Polynesian Voyaging Society, which built the Hokulea 40 years ago, and to the planners, sponsors, and sailors who have brought us together today. It is an enormous honor for the Desmond and Leah Tutu Legacy Foundation to welcome you and to care for you in Cape Town, to learn and to grow together. We are so pleased and so proud to welcome you. Aloha.